To Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
Well, it's that time of year where the U.S. Open takes over New York City. We love it. It's the quintessential New York sporting event. It's also, of course, a Grand Slam. And no one better to dig into the business of tennis than Patrick Mouratoglou. He is the coach with a capital C in many ways, but also a business builder, and has built a tremendous business, not just around coaching, but around the future of tennis. So it's really good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Love doing stuff in person. It feels like the world is changing a little bit. And so what needs to change in your estimation?
Well, that's a big question to answer. I think to answer that question, I have to go through the demographics.
Yeah.
And that's what I always go through because, as you said, tennis is my business, but tennis is also my passion since I'm 4 years old. And most of my businesses are around tennis. I have other businesses in other sports, but that's most of my business, and that's my passion. And I found out that the demographics are not great because a lot of studies have showed that the average age of the tennis fan is 61 years old. I'm not talking about the guys who are going in the stadiums or playing tennis. I'm talking about the people who are following tennis all year long and watching tennis on TV or on digital. So for sports, 61 years old is old for average for a fan base. And what is even more worrying is that every year this average age gets 1 year older.
Right.
More or less. And that just shows that the fan base of tennis is an old fan base that fell in love with tennis, like me, by the way, in the 70s or the 80s. And when you fell in love with tennis, it's for life. So those guys are very, very loyal to tennis. They're still here. They still love tennis. But tennis doesn't renew its fan base, and especially doesn't get young people on board. So that's why we are in this situation. And when I look at it like that way, I feel like but it's a death announced, in a way. Because when your fan base gets 1 year older every year, what's going to happen?
Right.
It's quite clear. So, I mean, talking to the governing bodies, I found out that something that I knew, but it's not a surprise, but it confirmed that the fan base is very, very classic, very traditional, very conservative, and that it's very difficult to make changes, which is fine. I don't want to change tennis. I love tennis personally the way it is. On the other hand, so I thought, what's the solution?
Yeah.
Is there a solution? Shall we change tennis or not? I don't think so. I think we have to find a way to bring young fans on board. It's not by changing tennis. And I thought, why don't we imagine a new tennis, a different league that would live next to the classic tennis league, and that would have that function to go and get new fans on board. And that's totally the idea. But in order
This is the UTS.
This is the UTS. But in order to do that, I had to understand why do young people don't watch tennis. And I also realized that there has been a huge change those last 20 years in the way people consume those type of contents. The digital, in general, has completely changed everything. And if you look at first of all, the offer is huge. You have the social media, the streaming platform, the video games, the e-sport, and a huge amount of different sports. And if you look at all the formats that really work, they have a few characteristics. First, they're short. Tennis is extremely long. We never know how long it lasts. Actually, 2 days ago, I was at Stefanos' match against Murray, and the match lasted 5 hours.
Right.
So they're short. They're very dynamic. Tennis is slow. They're very immersive. And they're authentic. And if you look at it, so tennis is long, it's slow, because the time when the amount of time when the ball is in play represents only 15% of the time of a tennis match. So the rest of the time is people walking, doing their routines. So it's slow. It's very slow. It's not immersive. It's not very authentic because very, very conservative, so everybody pretends to be a very nice guy. You know, it's not real. It's not real. Like in other sports, they don't pretend. They're themselves. You like them, you don't like them. But so the tennis lacks all the ingredients that would seduce the young generation.
Right.
So I created UTS, which means Ultimate Tennis Showdown, with the goal to propose a format next to the ATP and the WTA that would fit and that young people would love and follow.
Yeah. And so what's interesting about it, because I've read up on what you've been doing with the UTS, and it's interesting to think about the history. I think you and I are roughly the same age, and like I came along when there were some big personalities.
True.
John McEnroe, and is the one that sticks in everybody's mind, especially honoring him since we are here in New York. So it wasn't always the case that it became, and I'm quoting you back to you here, somewhat robotic. I believe that's a term that you have used. So so let's take that piece of it. How do you sort of empower tennis athletes in the way that basketball players have been empowered, football players, both kinds, both in Europe and here in America, have been empowered? How do you give that to tennis players? Yeah,
I totally agree with you. And I'm on tour all year long, and I'm in contact with the fans. And what I hear every single day of my life when I talk to the fans is tennis was better before.
Yeah.
And I ask them why, and they always answer the same thing. We had better personalities before. And I always answer them, you're not right. We have great personalities. But you are right in a way because they don't really show themselves. They don't show their personalities.
You may see it, but I don't, is really what it comes to. As a fan, I don't see it. As a coach, you do. You see more personalities than you want, probably.
But I mean, of course, they're strong personalities, all of them. Like they're really real competitors.
Yeah.
They're tough. They look nice because that's the image they want to give to people. But before, they were not caring about their image. They were just being themselves. The McEnroes, the Connors, the Gerulaitis, to name 3 Americans that had totally different personalities and great guys. Very fun, you either loved them or hated them, but you were feeling something.
And even into Agassi and Sampras, and I don't know who the last great that we saw in America was. That's a whole different topic. But so anyway, so get back to tell me, how do you engender this? How do you convince them that this is good for their business, basically?
First, a lot of discussions. They can't do it on the classic tour because the rules are extremely tough. If they do something wrong, they get fined. But more than being fined, they are pointed out as bad people.
Right.
Like it's like I remember at school, I don't know if you were a bad guy at school or not. I was not the best. So I remember the teachers pointing at you, you did something bad, you're bad, in front of all the classroom. It's the same thing, but in front of millions of people. So nobody wants that. So they kind of stay like that, and actually they complain, not only to me, but they did complain to me about the fact that they were not able also to be themselves. So I don't have to convince them. I just tell them, listen, I give you a place where you can be yourself. You can show your brand, you can show who you are, and you're free.
Yeah.
So feel free to be yourself. I don't ask you to do anything special, just be yourself. So just to come back to this format, we revisited tennis, and the idea was to say, if we had to create tennis today, knowing what we know about the way people consume that type of content, how would we do it? So we decided to do a 45-minute match. So the time decides when it's the end. It's 4 quarters of 8 minutes, much less time between the points, coaching between every point. The players have cards that give them advantages. They can have extra serve or whatever. They can use 2 cards per quarter. There is only 1 serve. We don't want to see aces and serve winners all the time. We want to see rallies. It's more fun. There is an interview at every changeover. So it's completely revisited. The players are free to be themselves. They can even talk to the opponent during the match and say whatever they want. So we think we're going to win this battle if we have 2 ingredients. The first one is entertainment. It has to be really entertaining, fun, exciting, a lot of suspense to watch, and very serious at the same time. Like players have to really fight as hell, because that's also why we love sport.
Right.
So this is the 2 ingredients that we brought in. We started last year, first event last year. From the first event, we had top players. We were broadcasted in more than 100 countries in the world, reached 20 million households. We had, Dominic Thiem, Zverev, Berrettini, Tsitsipas, Medvedev.
Right.
Most of the top 10s played. It was fun. They loved it. They said they want to play again. Again, we were everywhere in the world. So I think the proof of concept was made. We already have 1.3 million fans on Facebook after just 4 events. So it's great. We also realized that half of our fans are non-tennis fans, which is the goal. Bring new guys on board.
Yeah.
The average age of our fans is 40 compared to 61 for tennis. I think we get the format. We get it. I think we can improve it for sure, and we will. But the proof of concept is made, and now we're ready. We're actually into a capital raise. We want to raise 50 million euros to go to the next level and go full with a full year, with a full calendar, 10 events, 10 players, 10 cities. And if I have 5 more minutes to explain that.
Of course, you've got all the time you want.
This is the idea. 90% of the fans do not know 90% of the players. How interested is it to watch guys you don't know?
Yeah.
So what we decided is to do a tour with only 10 players. We're going to choose the 10 most marketable, fun, exciting, and good players at the same time to compete all year long and to become, one guy is going to become world champion at UTS at the end of the year. So exactly like Formula One. You know all the drivers. In tennis, you don't know 90% of them. You know only the 10 guys that are the best ones and or the most exciting ones. Like Kyrgios is 40 in the world, but everybody knows him because he's fun.
He embodies in many ways what came before and has not been present, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So 10 players, 10 events, because we don't want to have 3 or 6 events every week like other leagues, because we think an event has to be something extremely important and exciting. Same Formula One. You don't have 3 events every week in Formula One. So every event has to be something, like something you look forward to watching. You know, all the 10 players are going to start the year with 0 points, and it's going to be a race all year long to become world champion at the end of the year. And after every event, the ranking will change. So you're going to wait for that event to see what's going to happen, who's going to win, and who's going to be number one at the race. And 10 cities, because the idea is to have cities compete to host our events. And the beauty of UTS, one of the beauties of UTS, is that because we have only 10 players, we just need 1 court and 1 practice court.
Right.
That means that we can build a stadium just for the event anywhere. And we go to the cities and we say, okay, tell me what is the most iconic place of your city that you want to highlight all around the world. I'm in Cairo, I would say the pyramids. Right. Okay. We're going to create a stadium in the desert with 3 sides, and the 4th side is going to be the pyramids. And the 10 most exciting players in the world are going to compete in front of the pyramids, and it's going to be shown all around the world. How exciting is it for a city? So that's the plan going forward. And the other thing I would like to add is that our business model is classic with, of course, ticketing, sponsorship, TV rights, but we also have created our own OTT platform from day one.
Right.
We have already 150,000 subscribers, and the goal is to have also this huge tool to also monetize the whole business.
All right, so when you talk to people in quote-unquote traditional tennis about this, do they say, oh, that's adorable, like go off and do your little thing? Or do they say, I'm not so sure about this, maybe I'm a little threatened? Like, what's been the reaction?
So I think the world of tennis, the business world of tennis, the governing bodies, they understand why we do that. They know the situation that I just explained, the aging of the fans. They know something has to be done. It's very difficult for them to do it, again, because their fan base is very traditional. They wouldn't like big changes in our sport, and it's totally fine, and let's keep tennis the way it is. So they think, I explained to them that it grows the pie. For the whole tennis industry, if we bring new fans, other fans, younger fans, it just grows the whole pie. The players are going to make more money, and the whole industry is going to make more money. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Right.
And the goal is not to threaten anyone. And we have 10 events also to fit into the ATP calendar, and for those 2 leagues to be able to live next to each other. I mean, in any industry, it's great to have something traditional. In a way, it reminds me of Sampras Agassi. You had Sampras, the traditional, with the traditional clothes, and Agassi that was able to bring young fans on board. It's kind of the same thing. We have the traditional tour and the tour that is more modern for the younger people.